part
Hold
of...
on. Okay, setting up. Okay, sorry.
It's already live. So welcome back to the second part of the topic on sannyas is the ultimate gamble of the Living Enlightenment book. So my name is Manitya Dugananda, and I'm going to start with the Sadguru Vandana by invoking Swamiji. So let's sit with the back straight, join the palms together. Let's close our eyes and chant the Sadguru Vandanam if you already know the mantra. Take a deep breath. Nityanandam Paramasukaram Kevalam Jnanamutin Dvandvatitam Gaganashatrisham Tattvamasya Dilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Savadi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Satguruntam Namami. Om Nityananda Paramashivoham. Om Nityananda Paramashivoham. Om Nityananda Paramashivoham. Welcome back. Majar Shadika, you want to mute yourself? Otherwise, I can hear your background noise. Thank you. All right, so let's continue from where we left off last week. So last week we started on the chapter of this sannyas, right? It's the ultimate gamble, and we talk about what is sannyas, why sannyas is about flowing like a river, and then sannyas is not about renunciation and all that. So, and how sannyas is about living in reality. Okay, so see how to live in reality. Basically, one of the things that in the last part, it's like Swamiji said that, you know, how to break free from this whole vicious cycle. As long as, he said that, as long as we are enjoying the dream, this waking state dream, okay, we will never want to get out of this dream because you're still enjoying. When you are only feeling something is not right or something is suffocating, then you want to get out. But if you're still enjoying blissfully in the illusion, then you will never want to get out. Only when you get out will you realize it is a dream. Okay. Similarly, as long as you're enjoying the waking state right now, you will never understand that it is an illusion. Whatever you feel that you're enjoying in the outer world, you never want to wake up from this illusion, this Maya. Okay. So then here comes Shiva. Paramashiva comes to help us to see the dream that we are in the illusion. So he gave a very powerful technique, okay, a method to get us out of the illusion. As you know that Paramashiva, you know, Shiva is always the one who gives enlightenment and, you know, wake us up. So here's a very subtle and very important point. Whether you are in a dream state or in a waking state or in a samadhi state, all the different states of consciousness, which we went through in the previous chapter. The dreamer, the person is the same, isn't it? Whether you are in the dream state, whether you're in the samadhi state, or whether you're in a waking state, the one thing in common is the dreamer, okay? Whether you're seeing 1,000 thoughts per second dreams, or you're seeing 100 thoughts per second dream, or you're in the 0 TPS in samadhi, the dreamer is the same. That is the commonality across the different states. But what caused you to wake up from the illusion is the shift in attention from the scene, what you are seeing, to the seer, you know, the person seeing, correct? So whether you know, whenever you raise your awareness, move from the scene to the seer, it is from the object that where that you're seeing, the person seeing it. You came to the next state, you woke up. You basically woke up. So understand, whenever you put your attention, is whenever your attention is diverted from the scene to the seer, you wake up. Okay. So this is the technique that Paramashiva gave, the key is turn your awareness from the seen to the seer. You will wake up. So the whole key is about awareness, shifting the awareness from what you're enjoying outside to the person who's seeing, the consciousness who is seeing, okay, everything. So sanya is nothing but nurturing the awareness towards the seer, the person who is witnessing, the consciousness who is witnessing. That is, in essence, sannyas. So all the techniques of renunciation, meditations that, given by many enlightened masters, sages, they are all methods to pull the awareness from the seen to the seer, to the consciousness. So they are just nothing but shifting from what we're seeing to what the person who is seeing. So once you become the seer, you start experiencing this whole state called aloneness. See, aloneness is our original state. We experience it in our mother's womb when we're alone in the mother's womb. Okay? You're there alone by yourself. Aloneness is different from loneliness. Be very clear. There was a satsang Swamiji gave in the earlier days of his, public life. He talked about aloneness and loneliness. So you can go to YouTube and search for that. It's a very powerful satsang that helps you to understand the differentiation, because a lot of people are scared of loneliness. But when you start understanding your very nature is aloneness, you drop the fear. So society teaches you to always be with people at home, with your family, with clubs, with party, with your peers, your friends, your buddies, or at least with the television, like you feel that you're doing something, you're not alone. That kind of concept weakens you by giving you this support, okay? That thinking that you need to be distracted, you need to be entertained. When these are not there, you feel lonely suddenly, you cannot tolerate your loneliness because you don't know what to do with yourself, and you can't handle yourself because you have never lived authentically, with yourself. So suddenly you're alone, you cannot tolerate that. Understand? So loneliness is, loneliness always brings about suffering. Aloneness, on the other hand, is the causeless bliss that is in you all the time. The bliss that all the great enlightened masters have spoken of again and again. The ananda, the bliss. So aloneness gives you the strength to explore you and be settled within yourself, to be able to be comfortable within yourself. See, Swamiji says that one of the luxury in life is to be able to be with yourself without feeling irritated, without feeling angry with yourself, without feeling, all the SDH, self-doubt, self-hatred, or self-denial. Being comfortable at ease with yourself, feeling this inner peace, hence experiencing this bliss inside is the greatest luxury, because that means you are able to face yourself, you're able to handle yourself, you're able to look inside within yourself. That starts the whole journey of aloneness, coming back to your original state of aloneness. So sannyas is all about rediscovering that aloneness and relaxing into it. Ability to relax into the aloneness, the state of aloneness is sannyas. Okay. So understand that whenever you are caught in the maya, the illusion of this, waking state, where you're enjoying what you're seeing outside and forgetting that you are the seer, you're the consciousness, constantly remind yourself to come back to that witnessing consciousness, the seer who is watching everything, whether it's through unclutching or through different techniques of meditation to again put you in that witnessing state. You start to realize the state of aloneness. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the next part of this chapter talking about samsara and sannyas. I mean, the difference between a worldly life versus a life of sannyas. Okay, because by understanding the difference, it will give you tremendous clarity whether sannyas is something that is for you. Okay, so see the word samsara, right? Samsara literally means the world or the path. It refers to the worldly life that causes endless cycle of birth and death, birth and death. That's why samsara is talk about getting stuck in this vicious cycle of taking birth, dying, taking birth, and dying. So a samsari means a person who's stuck in this vicious cycle. Okay. Now, sannyas is obviously someone who's liberated from this, cycle of birth and death, and a sannyasi is a person. Okay. So sannyas is the path of liberation. So there are two ways to move in any path. Okay. Either you move with a lot of baggage with people, that means all your life all loaded with you, or by yourself, right? Either you travel the path with the whole family, with all the people, or you travel alone by yourself. So in the second case, you may have to wait many times because when your duty is not finished, so you cannot just go alone, right? In the first case, you can reach already even this very minute because they are already with you. You have already, been living in this life of samsara. Okay. So basically, sannyas is a decision not to carry any baggage while moving. It means bring completion to all the baggages and letting go and moving ahead alone without the baggage, without the load. Okay. So you can have everything, but you don't have to carry it. When you don't carry anything, existence brings you to what you need for the moment. That is sannyas. That means having a deep trust in existence, and existence will give you what you need at that moment, wherever you are, in whatever life stage and whatever you're doing, having that deep trust. Okay. So here's a very beautiful story from the life of Buddha. Once again, this chapter we have a lot of Buddha stories. So here's another story from Buddha. See, Buddha's disciple gathered around him one day and asked him to teach them the essence of sannyas. So asked Buddha to impart the knowledge of sannyas. So in this request, he told them a story, like a story within a story. So one man was living on an island by himself. So here Buddha starts a story about one man living on an island by himself. Suddenly, he got a feeling it was time for him to move from the island. It means leave the island. He didn't have a boat. So he decided to make one from whatever that he can gather on the island. Some twigs, branches, leaves. So he pulled together all the natural resources on the island, and he make it into like a floating boat, if you will, like a raft. It was a difficult journey, but somehow he crossed and reached the other side. Okay, from this island, he managed to cross and reach the other side. Okay, so Buddha asked the disciple, after reaching the other side, should the man keep the boat or discard it? So Buddha asked the disciple, okay, if we were him, would you keep the boat or you would discard that boat? So the disciples came out with different answers. Some were arguing that, oh, I'll keep it. Who knows, maybe I need to go. And then there's another group saying, no, what for you carry? You already crossed. You're already done with that thing. So there was an argument with different answer, right? So Buddha continued and explained, look, the man of sannyas discards the boat knowing that he will be provided for as needed in the future. He doesn't carry the load. The man of samsara keeps it so that his effort does not go to waste. He's always calculating. oh, I already built this, this is mine, if I throw that away, it'll be wasted. He wants to journey back. He wants to go back, give that option to go back. Understand? So that is a different thought current of a sannyasi versus a samsari. Do you catch what I'm saying? Huh? So you can see if someone who is in the space of sannyas, the person will say, I'm done with this. This is what I'm just going to go on my next journey. I don't think whatever I need, I'll be provided for. Versus a man who will carry and pack whatever that he has accumulated in his life and keep loading and loading and loading. Okay. So basically, a sannyasi walks with his thought on their existence, because the sannyasis constantly only have the inner space filled with existence, with God or whatever, whoever he or she is connected to. A samsari walks with his thought on how to exist. Okay, what should I do? How do I exist? How do I provide? How to earn the next meal? Where to go? That kind of thing. So it's about how to exist. Whereas a sannyasi is the thought of existence, connecting with the existence. So a sannyasi uses the boat to cross the ocean of life, whereas a samsari carries the boat even beyond the time it is needed, not knowing he can drop it. See the difference? So that is the main difference. There's nothing right or wrong in this. It is just two different ways to live, two different ways to exist. Okay? So let us explain sannyas in the context of karma, because sannyas is the shortcut to exhausting karma. Okay, so first, the difference between the sannyas and samsara is how you carry your thought current, your space, what you hold. One is that of existence, trusting existence to provide, whereas a samsari is someone who will think about how to exist, the accumulation. So that is a different approach to life. Now let's look at the context of karma. How the karma will get exhausted if you live as a sannyas, whereas when you live as a samsari, the karma does not get exhausted that easily. Okay, so let's look at the context of karma. See, all of us, before liberation, we need to exhaust all our karma. As you know, that there are three types of karmas, which I'll explain, again, I think in the earlier segment chapters, we have already talked about the three types of karma. So karma is nothing but the unfulfilled action of your past that pulls you back again and again to take birth to fulfill them. Let's say in our last birth, you forgot to do one thing. And then again, at the time of death, you say, oh God, I forgot again. Let me have to take another body. I have to come back to remember to do this, which I've forgotten in the last birth. Okay, so it's the very cause of the cycle of birth and death. Everything you did not exhaust will again be reminded at the time of death. In the time of death, you go through such deep suffering that you did not fulfill that, the karma or the prarabdha karma. As a result, again, you decide to come back, take another body to exhaust that. That's how we are caught in this cycle of birth and death. Okay, so here are the three types of karma. One, sanchita. Second, prarabdha and agamiya. So sanchita karma is your entire bank balance of unfulfilled action, your karma, accumulated over many, many, many lifetimes, many births. Okay, it's like your karmic bank, the totality of your karmic bank. So second type of karma is the prarabdha karma, is a portion of the sanchita, one part of the sanchita, the whole entire bank, you bring and come down to exhaust in this body. Let's say you have 1,000 karmas from all the birth you have taken, and in this body, you decided to take 5 to come down to exhaust. Okay, so out of 1,000, you took 5. Okay, so prarabdha karma is the portion of that sanchita that you bring to come to exhaust in this body. So each time you take birth, you bring with you a small portion of the sanchita as a prarabdha to exhaust. Okay. It includes all your unfulfilled desire, lust, anger, fear, and such a things, all these kind of things, right? Now, the third karma is called agamya, is the fresh karma that you create again in this new body. Because of the fresh, unfulfilled action. That means wherever you are in this new body and you again get attracted to certain desires and you didn't fulfill that desire properly, again, you create new karmas, okay? So that means instead of the 5 you came down to exhaust, you're adding more to the entire karmic bank. So if you go on like this unconsciously living, you will never exhaust. You will just be adding. The next thing you realize that it's become a huge bank of karmas. Ultimately, these are the 3 that need to be done in order to exhaust all karma completely. First, the first agamya, the fresh agamya should not get created because it only adds to the bank balance, right? The sanchita at the end of the lifetime. So I remember Swamiji always reminded us, don't create more agamyas in this body. Work on exhausting your prarabdha, the karma you brought down in this body to exhaust. I will take care of your sanchita. That means I will burn off your entire karmic bank by the grace of the Guru. So, understand? So, first thing, agamya should not be created. That means with the awareness, you stop creating fresh karma in this body. Second, whatever you come down with, please get it exhausted, fulfilled in this time, in this lifetime, completely without a trace. Whatever you have come down to exhaust. Let's say your life purpose is to do this, to serve humanity in this way. Do it. Because if you don't do it again, you have to come back. You realize, oh, I'm supposed to do this in this body, and now that my body is old and sick, I cannot live on this body more. I didn't fulfill my mission or my karma, and I have to come back again. So don't get to that level. Whatever you have come down, work on your prarabdha karma and exhaust it, fulfill it in this lifetime. Third, the volume of the sanchita itself should somehow be burned so that the number of times you take the birth reduces. So it means that this can only happen by fulfilling your prarabdha and not accumulating agamya, right? So you are exhausting and not accumulating. Then the entire karmic bank, sanchita, will start to reduce, right? So, and if you happen to have a enlightened master as your guru, blessed, because he will be able to burn it away through, in this lifetime. So if the prarabdha is exhausted in the right way, agamya will not get created. All right, because you'll be exhausting what you need to exhaust in this birth, you will not create more new agamya karma. The same intelligence that properly exhausts the prarabdha will take care of not creating new agamya. So sanchita itself can be exhausted only by the grace of the enlightened master. Remember, I just mentioned again, only through the grace of the enlightened master, he burns away all the entire karmic bank. So now understand clearly, if the fantasy of your prarabdha, let's say your fantasy of prarabdha is greater than your intelligence, the intelligence you have that you is not so much, you have a lot of fantasy of what you want to exhaust in this body, then marriage or samsara life is the path for you. However, if the fantasy is lesser, but you have more intelligence to handle, then sannyas is the path for you. See the difference? Okay, let me repeat again. If the kind of fantasy of your desire of the prarabdha karma, whatever that you come down to exhaust, is more than your intelligence, then the marriage life is the path for you. The life of samsara, householder. It means getting married, having have a family, it's the life for you. Whereas if your intelligence is greater than your prarabdha karma, the fantasy you have, then sannyas is the path for you. So in the path of sannyas, your intelligence wins over your prarabdha. Understand? Your intelligence, awakened consciousness, bring it to the control and exhaust it. So in the path of samsara, the life teaches you in a different way, and you exhaust your prarabdha through millions of births. So that's why when you take the birth of samsara, the life of samsara, you exhaust through many, many lifetimes. That means you go through again and again, because you forget and you recreate again. And then again, you go through the whole cycle. So that's why the quickest way to reduce your karmic balance is to take the path of sannyas. So in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, there is an eightfold path to enlightenment. Remember the Ashtanga Yoga. All the 8 paths are to be followed simultaneously. It's not that you do part 1, then you can go to the second step. No, it's not a step-by-step, way to attain yoga. It is all the 8 practiced simultaneously. Okay, all the 8 paths are to be followed simultaneously. You know, the 3 parts, the pratyahara, dharana, and dhyana. Pratyahara means the withdrawing of the mind or the senses away from the senses, okay, turning the awareness inwards. And the second one is dharana, merging the mind with the inner self. It means, have that one pointed awareness of the self. And then the third is dhyana, meditation. It means both losing the boundary and become one. Okay, so withdrawing the mind from the 5 senses itself can happen only when the mind merges with the inner self. For example, you can release the foot from the lower rung of the ladder, right? You can release the foot at the lower ladder only after you establish in the higher rung, right? You can see when you step higher rung, then you can release the lower rung, right? Isn't it? So you cannot let go of the lower rung of the tree only after you are clinging on the higher rung. When your hand reaches the higher branches, then you can release the lower branch to move up again. So we all think that only after renouncing the worldly attachment you can attain God. No, that's not. It's not like, oh, after I drop all this attachment, then I will be able to experience enlightenment. No. Swamiji say that the truth is only after attaining God, after you experience God in you, then can you shake off these worldly things. And see how the human logic fool us. Oh, okay, after I exhaust all these attachment, then I will experience enlightenment. You have to experience the enlightenment first, then you will drop all this. Otherwise, you will continue to hang on to it. You will not shake it off. Only you have experienced Nitya Ananda, eternal bliss, then you can shake off the worldly fantasy called Mithya Ananda. It means Mithya, it means worldly fantasy. Okay, so that's why the right understanding needs to be grasped. If you think by the human logic, oh, I would just, once I experience, I renounce all the attachment, I will be able to be, attain enlightenment. So would you say, no, you have to get the experience first. Then you realize all these things that you were attached to are just silly toys that you have outgrown it. What he called toys. When you were young, like a child, you don't know, you play all this toy, right? All this Barbie doll, all these cars and aeroplanes and all that. But after some time, you realize, this toys is meaningless. You outgrown it because you are becoming mature. So same way, when you are living in this so-called in this world, and we're attached to so many things, your bank balance, your jobs, your cats, your dogs, your family, all those things that you're so-called attached to. Now, when you start to be able to experience the higher dimension of you, okay, and you suddenly realize that all these are just toys that you picked up when you were young. Now that you have a cognitive shift, you feel that it is no longer important anymore. You're able to let go. You're able to shake it off. Okay. So if you can become aware of and hold on more firmly to the higher rungs, you may let go of the lower rungs more easily. That awareness is sannyas. Sannyas gives you the awareness of the higher rung. That means your high positive. This is the process of understanding and moving to the higher rung and leaving the lower rung, all the worldly pleasures and worldly attachments. Okay? As you move, renunciation happens as a byproduct. It's not like a forced, not like a forced thing upon you, but you become aware that this is no longer important to you. You move, you're able to outgrow it, go beyond it. It is a process of understanding and moving to a higher rung, leaving the lower rung. As you move, renunciation happens as a byproduct because you realize that to climb to higher, to raise yourself to higher consciousness, you don't need anything but yourself alone. You're enough unto yourself. So anything you take with you, it's only going to make it more difficult to climb. Imagine you have a load of people to climb with you in this path of enlightenment. You think it's going to be easy? You know, you have your kids, you have your husband to bring along this whole journey. You think it's going to be easy? Of course not. It's going to be a lot more difficult. You may not even reach. It's better that one person reach than the whole Jing Gang is going to miss it, right? At least one person has got enlightened is better than or the whole, nobody in the family make it. So here's another Zen story, which, you know, it is very fascinating, which is very, very true. So having renounced his kingdom, a king requested a Zen master. So this king came to the Zen master after renouncing his kingdom to accept him as his disciple. So he told the Zen master, please accept me as a disciple. I have renounced my kingdom. I'm dropping my kingdom. I'm coming to you as a, you know, as a disciple. So the master told him, okay, I will accept you, but I feel that you have to wait until you gain more maturity. So the master was in the, you know, feeling that he's not mature enough yet. And so the king was not ready to accept, but he was too impatient to wait. He doesn't understand what you mean by I'm not mature enough. I want to be your disciple now, you know. So he pleaded the king, oh, please accept me as your disciple, please, please, you know. So he was pleading the master, the Zen master. Finally, the Zen master agreed on one condition, that the king will move to another forest, live there. Okay, he sent him to the forest and live there for a while. Okay, so that is like kind of a test for him. Put him on a test. So the king followed the guru walk. You know, he listened to the guru's words and moved to the forest. Okay, what happens when he moved to the forest? Let's see. After a few days living in the forest, guess what? The king was not able to bear the mosquito bites in the forest. He was constantly being attacked by the mosquito. So he bought a mosquito net to protect himself. So he lived, imagine in the forest, he had a little mosquito net. Okay. Then a few days later, he felt that it would be better to have a cot to sit on for meditation. And so he went to buy a cot. So first he had a mosquito net, then he buy a cot, like a little bed, right? Then he found that, oh, when the rain comes, the cot get wet. So again, to protect the cot, he decided to build a small room, like a little hut, to keep the cot inside the hut, prevent the rain from wetting the whole cot. After some time later, he felt that he needs someone to clean the room every day. So he brought a helper, a cleaner to where he's living in the forest. Then to keep the helper occupied, he brought one more person because the helper said, I'm so bored living in the forest, cleaning the house. No. So he said, okay, I bring another person. So as this went on and on and on, eventually the king created a kingdom in the forest. He's supposed to live as a sannyasi, right? As a renounced person. Instead, because of his attachment to the worldly pleasures and, you know, comfort, luxury, he bring in one thing, one thing, one thing. By the time he, within few months, he created a little kingdom in the forest. That's why the Zen master told him, you're not a samsari goes to places to see the beauty of the existence, whereas a sannyasi sees everything around him as already divine and beautiful. When the samsari starts turning inwards, he becomes a sannyasi. Okay, when the samsari turns inwards, that means instead of trying to enjoy the outside, he turns inwards inside. He starts to enjoy, you know, he starts to become a sannyasi. Only when you start turning inwards, that starts your path to sannyas. Until he finds the burning need for that, it is better for him to continue with what he's doing. It means remain as samsari. Only when you start to enjoy that, there's a need to turn the energy awareness inside to focus on the self, the truth of who you are, to focus on the seeking. You will remain drawn to the outer world. For a sannyasi, the mind is happy all the time. What he gets is what he wants. He's always living in the mood of gratefulness and welcoming, acceptance. Bring acceptance to whatever there's in front of him, whatever that life is teaching him, the lessons, and whatever life is showering, he just accept and feeling in gratitude. Whereas a samsari will never have that feeling. His mind will be occupied with too many conflicts. I want this, I want this, I want this. Oh, what should I do this? Jumping here and there. Too many desires and conflicting desires that create so many inner struggle. He keeps trying to get what he wants, right? I want this, but internally he's not able to let go of this, and he's constantly caught in the web of conflicts. So with intelligence, the samsari can awaken to the truth only through intelligence, with knowledge that what he's getting is what he needs for the moment and for his ultimate fulfillment. Okay, so that is what a samsariya, someone who is stuck in the outer world life, needs to be awakened into. That what you need is what you're getting, basically, for your ultimate fulfillment. Okay, just bring awareness. So here's another story. There was a sannyasi who lived in a mountainous area. Okay, he lived in a mountainous area. The animals, birds would talk to him and he would respond. So he's living in such a beautiful space with nature. He's able to talk to the animals and the birds. They would spend a whole day near his hut. So the birds and animals would come to his hut, and then at the night time, then they'll go back to their home. So the birds will go to their nest, the animals will go back to their family, wherever they are. So 3 times a week, the sannyasi will go to the marketplace to preach. So that means in that 1 week, out of the 7 days, three times he will go to the market. Okay. He spoke a lot about how to share with one has with others without the fear of being poor. So he preaches that. It means living minimum things and the joy of sharing. So he was preaching that to the people at the market. He thought that existence would shower abundantly if one trusts and does this. So he basically teaches the people how to trust existence and allow existence to shower you in abundance. So one day he found 3 men approaching his hut in the mountains. Okay. They came and asked him, you have always told us to share what we have and how good it is to do that, right? You share that to us in your teaching. Now we're in need of money for business. Can you give us some money which we will return you as soon as business picks up? So these three people coming from the town came to ask him for money to start a business. Now, so the sannyasis was surprised, and he took them to his hut. Come, let me show you something. So they went into his hut, and he only had a mat, a straw mat where he slept on, a set of clothes where he changed, every other day, and a jug of water. Three things he owns only: a mat, a set of clothes, and a jug of water. Kamandal, right? He said, take these objects if you wish to. I don't have any gold or silver to give you to start business. Take these three things with you. Okay. So the three men got very angry. They became angry and shouted at him. So you teach and preach what you yourself don't follow. So he was just shouting at them. Okay. Now, the samsari is concerned about the material things, living life in a limited way. The sannyas is concerned about death of not just him, but death of ego, possessiveness, lust, anger, fear, jealousy, or discontentment. All those negative emotions, all those patterns that bring him, in a stuck life, make him not able to flow like a river. They consider that a sannyasi is more concerned about the death of this, make sure these leave him, right? Whereas a samsari is more about, hey, what do I have? What can we accumulate? No? So that is the main difference. He knows he's something beyond all this, his soul. His whole quest is to find this. And he has found the higher rung of the ladder, and he can leave the lower rung where the constant push and pull of these emotions and material things reside. See, in the material world, you will be struggling with, the basic survival, paying your job, paying your bills, and all this stuff, and then all your emotions of, jealousy, anger, all this kind of thing. So you be constantly stuck in those emotions and the material existence. If you are living in the worldly life, whereas for sannyasis, the space is more about how to, the quest to find the real self, the higher self, because he knows that there is a higher way of existing, and he's I would say intends to find the higher self. It means the seeking is intense enough to drop all this worldly attachment, these worldly things. So sannyas is a search to answer the quest, who am I? A sannyasi puts his whole energy into discovering the answer to this question, who am I? If people ask you, who are you? You generally will reply, oh, I'm so-and-so son. I'm an engineer. I'm a teacher. I'm a professor. I'm a marketing manager. So you will attach your identity with certain label given by the society. But these words describe who you are in relation with the world. What you're doing in the world is not who you are, correct? So if there's no world, then who are you? If this world does not exist, if this world collapses, tell me, who are you? If you lose a job, do you still say that I'm a teacher? No, all this does not, validate who you are anymore. So whatever you label yourself as, something and somebody, is just in relation to, the world, the outer world. So the great enlightened master who founded the world religion has said one thing repeatedly. Aham Brahmasi means I am that. I'm that. In Hindu tradition. And be still and know that I'm God is in the Christian tradition. In the Islamic tradition is like I'm the truth. Experiencing that your God is the purpose of human life. So discovering that your consciousness, you are the ultimate consciousness, is the whole purpose of human birth, right? Once this person is experienced, you had a glimpse, you had a satori, a glimpse of that experience. The inner bliss that all these great masters talk about start happening. You feel this joy, this bliss that's happening, you know, causelessly without anything outside. You are just feeling blissful. Then you understand that the outer world is a beautiful stage where the divine play is happening. There is ultimate freedom from all worldly difficulties. You do, and yet you don't do. You speak, yet you don't speak. You cry, yet you don't cry. Your inner self remains untouched by anything outside. You are in eternal bliss, Nityananda. Okay? So that's a stage when you experience, you have a taste of, regardless of anything outside, you're not touched by it, and you're constantly in the blissful state. So the problem is that people generally think sannyas is a hindrance to worldly life. They think sannyas is seriousness, or you got to be serious in order to be sannyas. No, that's the opposite. Sannyas is a certain quality for living life to its optimum. Seriousness will never help one live to its full potential. Only sincerity and laughter can help. Laughter is the greatest spiritual quality. Remember when we did a laughter meditation as part of the Zen Buddhism meditation technique? So again, laughter is the highest spiritual quality, because only when you can laugh at yourself, you can laugh at the life, laugh at the psychodrama of existence, then you are able to drop all this silliness in the outer world. Here's another story. A master was seated with his disciple. He was in an expansive mode. He was in a meditative mode where he feels it is expanding. His disciple decided to ask him about the various stages of where he passed through to reach the divine. It means, you know, the disciple will say, please tell us how the experience that you go through when you experience the ultimate. Okay, the master beautifully started explaining. God held me by the hand, first took me to the land of action. I stayed there for several years. Then God returned and took me to the land of sorrow. I fell into deep sorrows and eventually went beyond them. So he came out of sorrow. I felt happy again. Then suddenly I found God put me in the land of love. I went through burning emotions and found myself cleansed thoroughly. Then he took me to the land of silence. There I learned the mystery of life and death. The disciple asked, and was that the final stage of your quest? So he asked, if the land of silence the final stage? The master said, no. One day, God said, today I will take you to my very heart. And he led me to the land of laughter. Only when you experience, you know, God in your heart, can laugh. Laugh at yourself, laugh at everything. Not just silent. You're in silence, that means you're still having attached to certain ego. When you are able to laugh, the land of laughter, where the mind is shattered, then you can really experience the ultimate. That's why in Zen Buddhism, laughter is always prescribed as one of the meditation techniques. So understand, sannyas is your very energy. How can it be a hindrance to anything? Not only that, with the energy of sannyas, you are always young. You keep yourself young. You grow younger because you're no longer attached to all the problems, emotions. With the energy of sannyas, you are ready for the challenges of life. Sannyas is strength. It's not a weakness. It's not a hindrance. It's a strength. It is the quality of supreme self-discipline disciplined in the fantasy world. Someone asked Mahavira, one enlightened master from Zen tradition, Jain master, who is more superior, the samsari or the sannyasi? So he asked the Mahavira, the great enlightened Jain master? He replied, self-discipline is the most superior. It's not about the samsari or the sannyasi. Self-discipline is the most superior. A samsari can sometimes be more self-disciplined than a sannyasi, which is true. Please understand that self-discipline is not self-torture. Don't have the wrong cognition. It is a beautiful resting that happens within you. That means you are able to settle within yourself. It happens out of the deep understanding of the nature of your mind and the world. You're able to handle yourself. Okay? That's all. It happens from inside you. Ability to handle yourself is self-discipline. So, when I share this idea, people ask Swamiji, okay? Swamiji say, then why can't we just continue in samsara and live with the consciousness of sannyasi? Why can't we just live, like a pure space of sannyasi and just be in the outer world? Swamiji said, you see, the nature of man is such that unless a conscious decision is taken, it is difficult to bring about a permanent transformation in the consciousness. Sannyas is a conscious decision to transform the consciousness. Sannyas is a conscious decision. That's why sannyas needs to be taken. With the conscious decision, there is continual awareness. When you already make that conscious decision to become a sannyas, to renounce, to not really renounce, to go beyond, okay? To live in that space of flowing like a river, to be able to constantly be carrying the thought current of the existence. Then, this awareness, this continued awareness, okay, decreases the chance of slipping back. See, when you don't have this awareness, you again pull back to the worldly existence. Without it, there's nothing binding one to keep it on the path. It's very easy to slip back. Okay, after say, never mind. Let me give up. Let me just go back to living as per normal. So that's why it is very, very important to have that awareness when you take sannyas. That's why it's a conscious decision. So with sannyas, you will continue to do what you're doing, but a much, much better way, in a more confident way, in a more creative way, in a way that is closer to God, to the co-creation, the existence. Creation is a quality of God or existence. So existence continuously creates. Sannyas is imbibing the very qualities of existence and knowing that everything is the creation of existence. Okay, so that is one major difference with sannyas. The way how you exist would be a much, much better way. So here's another story. Okay, a woman was walking from her village to another neighboring village. While walking, she came to a field of golden pumpkins. There's a whole field of golden pumpkins on the field, the land. She saw a huge oak tree in one corner of the field. Someone is unmuted. Jarashatika, I think you need to. Yes, thank you. So basically, he saw oak tree, and at the corner of the field, as he was very tired, she sat under the oak tree for some rest. She just sat under the tree. Suddenly, he looked up and saw all the tiny acorns all over. The oak tree, they have these acorns in huge branches of the oak tree. Ahead of her, she also saw a huge pumpkin on the tiny vines of the field, right? So in front is the huge pumpkin, a lot of pumpkins in the field. On top of her is the acorns of the oak tree. So she thought to herself, even God makes blunders with his creation. He should put these acorns on the tiny vines or the small vines on the field, and then put this huge pumpkin on the branches on the oak trees. Isn't that make sense? So she was thinking that he thinks that God make a mistake. The pumpkin should be on top and then the acorn should be on the field, right? Because the vine is so tiny. After some time, she stretched herself, and then decided to take a nap under the oak tree, and she fell asleep. So she dozed off and took a nap. There was a sudden wind, heavy wind blowing. And then she got awakened because a tiny acorn fell from the branches and bounced off her cheek, plop, near her cheek. Okay, she rubbed her cheek and thought, maybe God is right after all. Imagine if the pumpkin dropped on her cheek, what would happen? She will not be living. Pumpkin dropping on her whole head. So basically, sannyas is about seeing the wonderful coexistence of everything in existence. You don't question. God is much more intelligent than you in how He creates the whole nature. You know, you try to question, why don't you create pumpkin on the oak tree versus on the field? There's a reason. Because He knows that people like you will sit under the tree and then you will have a nap and then suddenly something will fall on your head. So sannyas is existing in relationship like a water drop on a lotus leaf. See, you witness how the water drops on the lotus leaf. You can see the leaves, the water drop will be on the leaves, but it is not touched by the leaves. It is just kind of floating. You know how like a mercury, right? The mercury runs, right? So same way, when the water is on the lotus leaf, it just runs, but it's never absorbed into the leaf. So sannyas is living in relationship while being untouched by them. That means you're living in the world, but you're not touched by any of the things in the outer world. So a common misconception is that sannyas is renouncing relationship. No, it is not renunciation. It's about existing and enriching relationships. Okay, so that is a shift that we all need to understand, that it's not about giving up relationship. It's about having them, but not touched by them, untouched by them. And yet you are able to enrich them, making them raise to the higher consciousness. Okay, so many of my disciples, Swamiji say, who have embraced the path of sannyas, come and tell Swamiji, after initiation, the husband and wife understanding has flowered so beautifully. Now we're really living in tune with each other and with everything around us. Okay, so with sannyas, you start watching everything. You become a witness. Because of this witnessing consciousness, a gap is created between you and the other person. That gap is misunderstood as renunciation. If you notice, the gap is not there earlier. Each one is suffocating the other. If the gap is not there earlier, each one of you will suffocate each other. Now the gap is there. The gap is not a gap of distance, but a gap of awareness. Making aware when the person is reacting in some way, you will have awareness to know what is happening. Otherwise, you start getting into this reactionary pattern, right? Behavior, and start fighting and start throwing anger with each other. But when you have the gap, you start to witness and you'll be able to bring the right cognition and decision so that you don't perpetuate more suffering in the relationship. So awareness is bringing your consciousness to your mind and watching non-judgmentally. Okay, it is a very subtle action, so it becomes continuous in you. That is the beautiful part of it. That is sannyas. Okay, that is sannyas. It becomes part of you. First, you become this. You have this awareness in your consciousness. Then you start to see that it becomes a permanent feature within you. You become aware that it is part of the way of existing. Okay, so bringing awareness to the moment continuously is sannyas. It means living with awareness moment to moment is sannyas. With awareness, the very root of suffering is addressed before it takes roots, because awareness gives you that freedom to decide what action you should take, rather than jumping into the default reaction, the default reaction of anger, violence, all that. You just become aware before it takes roots. You are able to respond in a way that is consciously decided. That means you don't suffer The suffering is addressed before you are, because you're watching. That weakness will bring you the understanding. If you do this way, you're going to suffer. If you, without awareness, suffering is bound to happen. Okay. So sannyas is also living without the burden of this inner woman or inner man. We all are given this idea we are man and woman. What is meant by inner woman and inner man? It is nothing but the lust hidden in your mind, the fantasy that you have created in your mind. Shiva says beautifully in the Tantra, a man who has abandoned the woman in him, his inner mind, is a sannyasi. Even if he's still in the family, imagine he has abandoned the woman, desire for the woman, he's already living as a sannyas, living the space of sannyas. On the contrary, if thoughts of a woman persist in a sannyasi's mind, let's say a sannyasi, but constantly he's had lust inside his mind, thinking of woman, thinking of, having relationship, he cannot be called a sannyasi. Come on, right? That is a scale to measure if a man is a sannyasi. Even he is living in a family, but his space is not entertaining all that lust. He is already moved on. He has already dropped the urges of the lust. Whereas even the sannyas, even he had taken sannyas, but his mind is still filled with all the lust. He cannot be called a sannyas because that attachment to the last is still there. Okay, so in Buddha's teaching, the Four Noble Truths, the second truth deals with the cause of suffering. He beautifully says that suffering is because of the demand we make on life every moment. It is like asking a banana tree to bear mangoes. That's not possible. We will understand this habit only when we bring in awareness. You're asking for something that is not going to happen. Or you're asking for something that it's not what you need. It's not what you want fundamentally, but you're just asking because you're not aware. You don't know what you want. So not only that, when you watch, you start seeing exactly how transactions are happening in relationship. You see expectations are driving the whole thing, right? When you have certain expectation, that's where you start to drive each other crazy. Just like how your mother expect you to be like this, like this, like this, how you feel so suffocated. Or your husband expect you to be like this, and he drive you nuts, right? Expectation is the root of all suffering because you have certain way you want the other person to be perceived or do the way how you perceive that person. So you see the ulterior motives in everything. When you start witnessing that someone is forcing you to do something which is not what you want. It's not you. See, Swamiji said that he remembered one incident that happened when he was around 12 years old. One of the grandmothers was about 104 years old. She passed away. So she has no more children of her own. She was looked after by one of Swamiji's uncles. So the uncle and the wife were not very happy looking after her. So they didn't like her because that woman is also, they complain about her because she's a very difficult, unpleasant person. Okay, she loved money, she hoard money, and she's a miser basically. She was a miser, even though she's wealthy. She does not share the wealth. She just hoard all her money, stash her money and jewelries under her bed. So she's that kind of woman. Okay. So when Swamiji asked for money, she would tell to ask Swamiji to go and find from the the father. Don't ask her for money. She would not give water of her well to her neighbors during summer. She had a well outside her house. And during summer where water is scarce and sometimes in a village you share whatever you had. She will not even share water with her neighbors. That kind of miser. So you can imagine. So that kind of woman, she just passed away and nobody is really like, really grieving for her. So when she died, no one in the family wept. Okay, nobody cried because she's like, oh, okay, what a relief, she's gone now. but the woman in the household changed in cheap sari. So all the women, there's this kind of rituals, right? All when someone passed on, they have to change the sari, remove all the jewelry, and receive the friends and neighbors who come and offer condolences, right? Offer the prayer. So as soon as the guests come, these women will start crying, like acting. Every time a set of relatives arrived, the wailing would start all over again. And somebody was shocked at this hypocrisy of this whole situation. He started laughing. When the dead body was still in the house, the relatives were still coming. The immediate family went to the dead body's, the woman's room under the bed, and dig out all her jewelry box and started to divide the jewelry. They were like, oh, this one belongs to me, this one belongs to me, this one belongs to me. So it's like they're fighting with the jewelry. Okay, so they had laid their individual claims on their jewelry and started negotiating and bargaining even before her body was supposed to be buried. I'm on Facebook Live now. It's not funny. Okay. So basically, that means the whole family are all hypocrites. Okay, they are just only after her money. Even before the whole body had grown cold, the body is still burning. I'm going to remove that. Okay, they call a goldsmith to estimate the wealth of the jewelry. It means, hey, the body is still there. She just passed away in like few hours, and they're already talking about the jewelry that she owns and how much it's going to weigh and how much it's going to bring them. So that kind of relatives are doing that. So Swamiji at that moment lost all the respect for the family and all this social conditioning. He started laughing loudly, at their behavior. So in the funeral, he started laughing. So the uncle who took care of this lady started wanting to hit Swamiji to stop his laughter. Swamiji held his hand and told him that if he tried to hit him, he would tell the entire crowd what you guys were up to with all the looting of the money, all the jewelry, even before the body is cremated. So Swamiji's mother told, who knows Swamiji very well, told the uncle, please don't do that. He's very capable of doing what he threatens. So then the relatives started arguing about who should pay for the funerals. They don't have money, so they're trying to shun the responsibility of paying for the funerals. And Swamiji's father, as always, a very innocent man, just hated this argument. He just said, okay, let me settle all the expenses. So Swamiji's father settled the funeral. So Swamiji was completely disgusted by the whole scene of the family. He just took the Bhagavad Gita book and started chanting the verses in front of the dead body. It means the liberation chant for the body, and said, it is said that by reading the Gita in front of the dead body can liberate the soul. That's what he could do for the grandmother, right? So, see, given Swamiji's age at the time, that was what he could do best for the situation. Understand, a sannyasi takes responsibility for the whole of existence. He doesn't know the difference between family and the rest of the world, because the world is his family. They're all the same. He wishes for the liberation of everyone who comes his way. On the other hand, a samsari only takes responsibility for one family, or maybe for a few organizations or the clans that the samsari belongs to, the community it belongs to. But a sannyasi takes responsibility for the entire world. That is the main difference. This taking responsibility is always towards a definite cause. It's either to accumulate the credit of being service to others, or fulfill certain obligation, or to coexist easily with the people around him. Okay, so that is the different space of a sannyasi. So the nature of the sannyasi's responsibility is completely different. For him, the whole world is his family. There is no obligation driving him. Responsibility happens completely out of the quality of the inner space. It's inner driven, whereas a samsari can rest only after fulfilling his duty at that stage in life. A sannyasi continuously works and works and works because people are constantly in need of truth in their life. Okay, so a sannyasi is established in rich relationship. People think sannyasi run away from relationship, which is not true. A young girl asked Swamiji once when he was addressing a college gathering. When in one time, Swamiji was invited to a college gathering and asked him, is it because of failure in love that caused you to become a sannyasi? Is it because you cannot find, you've fallen out of love and no one, you cannot find one you love, that's why you take sannyas? So the girl asked Swamiji, Swamiji told her, it is because of success in love that caused me to become a sannyasi. Actually, sannyasi is what softened you into real love. Love towards not just one person, but to the whole of existence. It's a larger cosmic love, not the love for one person. So ordinary love, that's what we call the ordinary love towards another person, comes with a reason, with a lust. Real love knows no reason. It's just costless, overflowing energy towards everything in existence. So that is the love of sannyas, the ultimate flowering of the love. So in reality, sannyas is living like a king. You live like a king as a sannyas. You look at Swamiji, how he lives like a king. Even though he go and begs at people, but he begs like a king, just like how Buddha, when he goes village to village to beg for alms, for food or whatever, he begs like a king. So sannyas is the beginning of a kingly life, to live like a king. Because when you have cleaned yourself with all your suffering, then you gain everything you can ever gain. You gain far more than the mere wealth can give you. You gain more than everything. So you feel that you live like a king. So when Swamiji was born, the family astrologer already once told that he will live as a Raja, sannyasi. Raja means kingly sannyasi. He will live like a king of a sannyasi, right? So if sannyasi is adapted to its right spirit, it gives a kingly stature. It means when it's adapted to the right spirit, the spirit of the right of the sannyas. Sannyasi is the ultimate royalty. Royalty means living a royal life because it is rich without any paraphernalia. It means without all the frills of all these things. So a king is rich because of his outer wealth, whereas a sannyasi is rich because of the inner wealth. You rather have inner wealth or the outer wealth. Outer wealth can be taken away anytime. The inner wealth is what lives with you, even you exit the body. You take along with you, okay, wherever you go. So with outer wealth, there's a danger, or anytime you may become a pauper, you become a beggar. With inner wealth, you remain rich forever and ever. It is said that when Buddha went begging, he would look like a king, and the person who give alms would look like a beggar. The person who give in feel like he's begging to the king. So it's the hallmark of the sannyas quality. Of course, Buddha was enlightened at the time, but the sannyas dimension itself has the quality in it. It will simply radiate the kingly energy. Okay. Not only that, the inner richness causes everything outside to be experienced with richness. A sannyasi recognizes the unending abundance of existence. His vision is oceanic, and he's not stuck in the narrow perceptions. He perceives the whole of existence as whole, as one. He feels part of the whole. That is why he's rich. A rich man, who feels he owns a few acres of land, is not really the rich one. The one who feels that abundance of existence is the real rich one. Okay, so that is the main difference. Okay, so I'm going to pause here because the next session is going to start soon with Mahajaya, with the Bhagavad Gita reading. So I want to just take a quick pause before I conclude the session. Any questions so far on this? So you understand the spirit of sannyas based on what I've spoken, what I have shared in the second part of how the space of the sannyas is very different from the space of the samsari. It means samsari is someone who is living in a worldly life, and why when you evolve to the state of sannyas, living like a sannyas, how your life is fundamentally different, because it's focused on existence. You live like a royalty, and you live like a king, and you back, you live like a king. So that's one of the main difference. And you're never touched by anything outside. You remain pure, untouchable, in a pristine state of purity and innocence, and constantly living in bliss. That is the beauty of sannyas. So anyone feel that you want to be sannyas now? Seriously, sannyas is coming to realizations. Actually, when I first time I heard about this sannyas, I was like, no, it's like, I can't imagine myself doing that. But as I start seeking, things start falling away. So that's why it is not so unimaginable. Maja is here. So with that, let me just conclude. Shatika, you can conclude the Facebook Live. So let me just finish with the Puna mantra. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudashyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat Saubam Bhagavashi Nityananda Paramashiva Bharga Paramastu Om Nityanandam. Okay, so those